Well, look at that. It was a fairly decent haul this week at my local comic book store. 11 books. So we've got a little bit to talk about. Stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghala. My name is Duke, and this is the weekly haul. And yes, I know it is really last week's haul. But as I have told you time and again, I need quite a few more subscribers, 978 in fact, in order to get the monetization. If I'm ever to the point where I am, making part of my living through this, then great, I will prioritize these types of videos. But until then, hey, it's just a hobby. So yeah, I realize these are the books that came out on October 6th and 7th, and I am filming this on the 13th. But hey, bear with me. Anyway, I like doing these videos because, it really fosters a conversation with you, my fellow comic book fans. I put out there what I bought each week at my local comic book store, and some of you come back in the comments below with what you bought and things you bought that I didn't, and we get a little bit of a dialogue going. And I have already actually added some things to my pull list for December based on those reactions in the comment section below. So you could have an influence on my buying habits. I invite you to avail yourself of that opportunity. Or at the very least, tell me why I'm an idiot to be buying the things that I buy and thinking the things I think. That's okay too. Leave me a big old thumbs down if you want instead of a thumbs up, and a nasty comment instead of a positive one. That's okay because, as I've noted, this is a brand new channel still, only 22 subscribers. Any interaction you can give is going to help me with the algorithm. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it. Got 11 books this week at my local comic book store, which, for the record, is DotCom Comics and Collectibles in Freeport, Maine. Those 11 books came to a total retail value of $37.92. Thankfully, I do get a little bit of a discount, both for my pull list and as an employee. I don't work in the store, but I work for the company that owns the store. So luckily, the financial hit here isn't quite as large as it might otherwise seem. Let's talk about these books, though, that I did get. Adventureman number 4. I really do enjoy this book. I think the best compliment I can give this book, which is written by Matt Fraction, drawn by Terry and Rachel Dodson, is that it really awakens my inner 10-year-old. If I went back to 1978, I think this would be a favorite book of mine at that time, even though, it stars a chick. Back in the day, I was like, Wonder Woman, Starfire, but I think I really would have enjoyed this, not the least of which for the Dodsons' wonderful art. Now, the front half of the book is a little dark, and maybe that's because it's taking place at night. I don't think it's just the way books are colored these days, because it does brighten up here at the back half. But anyway, if you are not getting Adventureman from Image Comics, I highly urge you to get that book. I think you'll like it. And again, it's only on issue 4, so you should be able to put together the full run fairly easily. Batman number 100. I am actually a little behind in my reading on this. I think I'm back around issue 96 or so I need to catch up before I can actually read this. This was a $7 book. So, the one good thing is that because it is an extra-sized book, the decompressed mode of storytelling, there's some potential here to get some actual plot going. Maybe not. The reviews to this that I have seen online are fairly lukewarm. Now, one thing I did see online was the question of what's the legacy number? What would this actually be? And I actually worked that out. And I even wrote it up for you to be a little helpful. So by my count, this Batman 100 is actually Batman number 874. And here's how I reached that count. The first volume of Batman ran 713 issues from April 24th, 1940 to August 17th, 2011. That run included a couple of special issues, a zero issue published on August 10th, 1994, and an issue 1 million published on September 9th, 1998. I count those in this total because the way I look at it, the goal of establishing a legacy number is if you piled up all of the books titled Batman, how many would you have? Regardless of the number, how many books would you actually have? So, 713, 714, 715. Volume 2 ran 52 issues from September 21, 2011 to May 11, 2016. That included a 0 issue published on September 12, 2012, and the issues 23.1 to 23.4, which came out between September 4th and September 25th, 2013. Now, this next one we could probably quibble about. Batman Futures End #1, published September 10th, 2014. I count that book because it effectively was the Batman book for that month. Batman skipped a month. All DC books skipped a month, or most of them anyway. And you had, instead of the regular book, a Futures End. So this is effectively not just gimmicking with the number to goose sales, but gimmicking with the title as well. But it effectively served as the Batman issue for that month. And the same with Batman Rebirth #1, which came out on June 1, 2016. Now, you may say, okay, well, Duke, if you're counting those, how about the Convergence issues? And in this case, no, I would not count those because the 3 Batman-related issues of Convergence that came out were Convergence, Batman and Robin, Convergence, Batman and the Outsiders, and Convergence, Batman, Shadow of the Bat. Those 3 would be more properly counted in the legacy numbering calculation for those respective titles. So just as I say, Batman has had 874 issues. I kind of did the math for you, and I can tell you that the next issue of Batman and Robin, should DC publish one, should be issue 74. Batman and the Outsiders should be 67, and Shadow of the Bat 99. Certainly after Rebirth, we have the 100 issues of the current series, which have been published from June 15th, 2016 until the present. No gimmick issues in there, no zeros or point whatevers or alternate titles that replaced, as far as I know anyway. So again, that comes up to 874 issues. So what does this mean for you? Well, it basically means that within at least 25 issues, DC is going to put out a issue number 900. So you're going to have another giant $10 mega special issue to look forward to. Start budgeting now. Now, I say that, but again, this is by my calculation. DC will calculate this differently. I assume that DC thinks it's on issue 865 because they will just count 713, 52, and 100. They won't count these 0, million, and 23-point issues or these alternately titled issues because they did not do that with Action Comics and Detective Comics when they returned to legacy numbering on those. I will tell you that Action Comics, which is currently, I think, issue 1027, should actually be something like 1036. But anyway, be that as it may, again, I'm going to tell you the next issue of Batman number 101 should be number 875. DC will probably tell you it's 866. But that's the answer to what is the legacy numbering on Batman. Moving on with the haul, we have got Batman, The Adventures Continue. I thought this was going to be a regular series, but it's just a 7-issue limited series. Again, the coloring is kind of dark, which sort of contrasts not pleasantly with the more cartoony style of the artwork here. But everybody likes things kind of thick and muddy in their comic books these days. I don't know why that is, but I don't really love it. Firepower number 4 from Image Comics, Robert Kirkman, Chris Samney. I've said before, and again, look how dark that is. That's kind of just mud. That's the way I look at it anyway. But again, I got this largely because of Chris Samney's artwork. So this book's been okay, so let me know if you've been buying that, what you think of it. Legion of Superheroes, and the super geeks among you will note that this came out actually last week. What happened is that my local store ordered 12 copies of Legion of Superheroes number 9. UCS saw fit to send us 2. So we had to get on the horn, and really I was shocked that we got these so quickly, the replacement issues, or not even replacement, the issues we should have got. Legion. Well, you can tell by the Legion flight ring and my assistant, Drew here, that I'm a big fan of the Legion of Superheroes. And God, I can't recommend this to you. I just hate what Brian Michael Bendis is doing on the Legion. Not just the changes he's made, but the stories are so bad, such as they are, where nothing kind of really happens, and everything that does happen doesn't make any sense, and is often contradictory to what, in just 9 issues and a couple of specials, he said already. So, I'm hoping beyond hope that when Bendis, a great darkness is coming. I'm hoping beyond hope that that's not Bendis sticking around to do that, but that maybe that's something he's passing off to the next writer. And hopefully the next writer will just bail on this version of the Legion completely. I don't mind if the Legion is rebooted. The Legion reboot of 1994 is one of my favorite versions of the team of all time, frankly. But this particular reboot has been a hot mess. And you can see here every page was done by a different artist, and not all of them, I would say, particularly successfully. So, like I said, it's a hot mess. Norse Mythology is an adaptation by P. Craig Russell of the Neil Gaiman book on that topic from Dark Horse Comics. I don't know. I've thumbed through this already, and it doesn't seem like there's a ton going on. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, the artwork's nice enough, but again, not really a lot going on there. The one thing that kind of struck me about this book, though, is that if you look at the the cover design and the logo, the first thing I thought when I saw that, it reminded me very much of like a 1970s era fan magazine. So I don't know. What do you think? I'm not saying that as a knock necessarily. Just that's what it made me think of. Okay, the Orville. This is number 2, which is actually, I don't know, number 6 or 7. They keep renumbering this with every new story. So you've had 3 number 1s already. And again, very dark coloring for the most part. And I don't usually go in for, and I've told you this before, don't usually go in for comic book adaptations of properties from other media. Kind of works here because, I mean, that's a real nice page of talking heads. Right? And here we go. Look, here's some more talking heads. So the way comic books are done these days, written as though they are television scripts, well, here you go. Here's the ultimate manifestation of that as we go beat by beat in a dialogue, in a conversation, and you get page after page of talking heads instead of, kind of any real action. So, I don't know. We'll see how much longer I stick with the Orville. I don't have Hulu, so I probably won't be able to see season 3 of the Orville if and when it ever actually comes out. So my Orville boner could be going away. It's basically my Orville boner is now kind of just an Orville chub. And it's going limp fast. See, now that'd get me demonetized if I was monetized. PENULTIMAN, I'm presuming that's how it's pronounced. I don't love this cover. I don't really love that airbrushed coloring technique. It kind of makes this look like mud. This is from Ahoy Comics. This is number 1. And I got this largely, not largely, almost entirely because of Tom Peyer. So I mentioned the Legion reboot, the 1994 reboot, one of my favorite versions of Legion. I really liked Tom Peyer's work on that, his participation in that, one of several writers involved, but one of the primary ones. So I bought this book really just out of nostalgia and loyalty to him. Now, the artwork's pretty good. Seems to be a fair amount actually happening, going on. So we shall see. We shall see. I'll look forward to doing a review of that book. And then the last 3 things I have here are some True Believers. And whether you are a fan or maybe more particularly if you actually own or work in a comic book store, what is your theory on these True Believers? How do you handle them? My local store, trying not to tell too many tales out of school, but my local store really doesn't stock these at all beyond whatever happens to be on a pull list. You know, there's none on the shelf. None of these exist on our shelves. I say our, there. None of these really exist on the shelf. If I know in advance that if I don't order it, put it on my pull list, I'm almost certainly not going to get it. And I don't really know why that is. I haven't really had a in-depth conversation with the store manager about why this is. I presume it's probably because the profit margin on these is so low. Well, actually, I mean, the margin is the same, but the actual raw number is so low. Instead of making, you know, $1 a book or $2 a book or whatever it is on a $3.99 book, they're making what, 20 or 30 cents on a book that's $1. And they take up the same amount of rack space, which, you know, is kind of what hurt comic books back in the 70s when corporations started buying up all the mom and pop stores. They wanted to maximize their rack space for the things that actually made money, or made more money anyway. So comic books were kind of shunted to the side in favor of magazines, in so much as they continued to have magazine racks at all, because they made more money on them for the same amount of shelf space. That's one reason why you saw DC so many times during the 70s trying to go with larger packages. First 25-cent giants, and then 50-cent or 60-cent giants, and finally their line of dollar comics. That was all designed to increase the amount of money that the retailer made on the book, hopefully to encourage them to continue stocking the book. But whatever the reason, again, my local store just doesn't stock these at all, and I have to tell you, if I was running a comic book shop, I would order like 50 or 60 of each one of these. Because the way I look at it, there's a couple of advantages to these. One, I'd stock them up by the counter. They're a good impulse buy. Somebody comes up with, you know, $19 worth of comics. They're going to hand me a $20 bill. They might just throw that in anyway, you know, just to even it up a bit. The other thing is that when a new customer comes into the store, especially if it's like a kid and they're interested in comics, you hand them a new book like this, or most especially that, and you know they're going to spend $4 on a book that's going to take them about 10 minutes to read, and they're not going to get a complete story. They're just going to get this little smidgen bit out of the middle of the story. I often like it to a TV show. You know, reading a modern comic book is like walking into the living room in the middle of a TV show, and you know it's maybe the 4th episode of the season, you've never seen it before, and you just watch between the 3rd and 4th commercial break of that episode. You've got no idea what's going on and probably no interest in coming back after the commercial break. You're just going to go jump on a computer and do something else. Well, it's much the same way with comics, but with one of these, instead of $4, it's only $1. Instead of taking about 10 minutes to read, it's going to take the kid probably about 30 minutes to read at least, maybe 40. And they're going to get a complete story rather than just some little smidgen in the middle of a story. And so I think you're more likely, even though these are old stories, maybe a little quaint in their style with narrative captions and thought balloons and not much reference to modern technology and things like that. But they're going to get a more complete reading experience, and I think that's going to get that new reader hooked so that they'll come back. Because I promise you, you give a new reader this, you're never going to see that person again. Ever. Whereas this, you know, this could get them hooked, and they'll come back, and maybe they will sample some of the new things. So, I mean, this is what I would push on any new or curious reader that came into the store, is these $1 True Believer type of things. And then the other thing is that they also, because they're so cheap, they make good premiums, not much different than the free comic book day material, which I don't know if you know it or not, but your local comic book store actually has to pay for those things. It's not free to them. So it's kind of good advertising. You know, maybe you stuff a couple of these in a pull list or give them out to a young kid who comes in or whatever. And at the very, very worst, right, if they don't sell and you have to stick them in the dollar box, well, when they do eventually sell, you're still making a profit. You haven't taken a loss. So again, I would buy from my store about 50 or 60 of each one of these issues, as opposed to none. So there you go. That is the pull list for this week. That is everything that I got at my local comic book store. I'm very interested in hearing what you got, what you think of what I have here on my list, and what you got that may be different from my purchasing. So whether your pull list mirrors mine or not, happy reading, and until the next video, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.